Welcome to the Bait Boys podcast, the podcast where we're trying our best, darn it. It just usually doesn't work out very well. My name is Jesse with Freek Baits Custom Fishing Lures, and as always, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Anthony from Lazy Baits Co. and Trevor from Peak Baits. Gentlemen, how are you this wonderful evening?
Good.
Wonderful.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's been a busy couple of weeks. We've had some frustrating events happen that we'll get into a little bit later, but overall, I'm doing okay. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. But yeah, as you'll notice, we are not joined by a guest this week. It's just the Bait Boys. We're going to hang out. We're going to talk. We're going to give you some updates on some stuff. We're going to tell some stories, and we're going to have a good time in general. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Let's just jump right into it, fellas. So last week, so we got to give some context to this because we're doing this a little out of order because last week's episode has not officially aired as of us recording this episode, which doesn't usually happen, so it may get a little confusing. Just keep that in mind. We had some issues with last week's episode. Not the episode itself. It was a great episode with John Mitchell, who's a professional fisherman, and a lot of great stuff. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, the platform that we use to record our podcast, it's highly recommended. Highly advertised, at least. I get ads for it every day, even though we've already purchased it. Riverside FM. Once we completed recording the podcast from last week, I was going through and just kind of cleaning things up and looking at it, and we had one audio track that didn't sync up with the video track, but I wasn't gonna call you out. It wasn't your fault. So yes,
all right.
Anthony's audio track did not match up
As
with
always.
his video track, and but it wasn't, had it been just like offset to where I could adjust that would have been easy, but it drifted. It started off synced up. And then by the end of the podcast, you were 4 seconds off of what, like of the sound coming out and your mouth moving.
I thought you said 4 minutes off.
No, 4 seconds. It was 4 seconds off. It was enough to make it to where by the end of it, it didn't make any sense. So we couldn't just leave it, which
That's
is what I
normal.
originally wanted to do. So there definitely had to be something done. I reached out to Riverside, opened a ticket, I guess. I reached out to their tech support. They said, we'll look into it and get back to you. They get back to us and say, well, it's because of the camera he was using. To which I replied, we all three use the exact same camera, and Trevor and I didn't have any issues whatsoever. It worked flawlessly. So thank you. Try again. And I guess that was enough to get them to escalate it because, and I may have said some things like, we just paid a lot of money for this. And of course, as soon as the free trial ends, it screws up. I'm very disappointed. I want a full refund. I don't like to be a Karen unless it's necessary. And sometimes it is, but they escalated it and they looked into it a little further. And I will say to their credit, they were pretty quick about the responses from that point forward. It took a little while to get the initial response, but then once I showed them that I was serious, things sped up a little bit. And they were able to identify the problem. Apparently, there's a feature that we used during that episode that is not working properly, and they're currently trying to solve it. But yes, we used this feature. We paused to take a quick break in the middle of the episode. We hit the pause button.
Paused.
Yeah, I know it's a super advanced feature. It's just in beta. No, we hit the pause button so we could take just a brief break in the middle of the podcast because it was a pretty long one. And apparently that is what caused the audio drift for Anthony's both video and audio track. So the good news was they identified that it was an issue on their end, which I was appreciative of because they felt like I was getting a canned answer the first time. It's like, well, look at their hardware and see if it's not on our list, then that has to be the problem. Wasn't the problem. And they took responsibility. But the bad news was they couldn't fix it. They couldn't fix the audio. And so I had to fix the audio. And had to do it the old-fashioned way. And I'm still, as of recording this, in the process of doing all that. I've got a little while longer before. But hopefully, if you're watching this, you've already seen that episode, and it turned out great, and we can move on with our lives. And hopefully, when we're done recording this episode, we don't see the same issue. If we do,
There's going to be hell to pay.
I'm gonna go full Karen. I'm gonna go mother of Karen at that point in time, and Riverside and I are gonna have a very, very heart to heart chat, and it's gonna be a difficult conversation for them.
What sucks is, people are expecting it to come out now. And like John, like I'm in a couple group chats with him, with you and me, him, and a couple other people, and he's like saying the date it's gonna come out, and then all that crap happened, and I'm like, well, that sucks, you know? He's excited about it being released, and now it's like weeks behind.
Yeah.
But it's life.
It is, but it's still, and that's part of what I put in my email to Riverside. I was like, listen, we're having to reschedule stuff. We have guests that are coming on. We had a guest on this episode who's expecting it to come out. Like you're wasting all of our time. Like this was a big deal, a bigger deal than they were initially willing to admit. They did apologize for the inconvenience several times, which cool. And they did credit us back, a portion of what we paid for the inconvenience, but it still sucked. And it's
And
still,
you spent it all on alcohol because you're
I did.
sitting there editing it over and over again, just looking
Yeah.
at my ugly mug, trying to line my voice up.
Yeah. That was actually the easy part. The rest of it was, it's just, I won't get into the details of it, but it is quite a process. But that was the whole reason that we were like, hey, this Riverside thing looks cool. Let's go with that. It makes everything so much easier. And as the editor of the group, it made my life, I went from spending 8 hours on editing a podcast to an hour maybe. And that's like start to finish. So it saved me a ton of time. It made it look better. It made it sound better. So it's, when it works, it's great. But when it doesn't work, that's where the issue comes in. And, I want to apologize to John because I know that he thought that, and what we told him, I thought that this episode was going to air on a certain date, and it in fact did not. And it's going to be a week behind. So we'll get that up and running. Hopefully it already is. If you're watching this, you've watched that episode and it turned out good. And, so yeah, we're just going to move on and we're going to pay close attention. And if it happens again, we're going to cause problems. It's the nicest way.
No more pausing.
No more pausing. Yeah, I'm never hitting the pause button again. But yeah, so that's our first announcement. We're sorry everybody had to wait, and it may not make a lot of sense because we didn't apologize for it in the episode that you had to wait for, but that's because it was already recorded. So yeah, we have a whole Star Wars thing going on as far as continuity goes, but we are, on behalf of Riverside, I would like to apologize for everybody having to wait. We were on a good rhythm and getting an episode out a week, and then it just didn't work out that way. And then I decided I had to go on a week-long adventure. We'll get into that later. So that didn't help anything either. I get back and I'm like, oh, I need to edit the podcast. I get back and I'm like, oh, I need to edit the podcast, and and I go to start editing and it's all screwed up. So that's where that all started. But here we are. We're back. We're better than ever, hopefully. And
we're something.
Yeah, we're something. We're something. Exhausted. I know that from dealing with all this. We're here. But yeah, so let's put all that behind us, move on to the next thing, which is a little cooler. Let's talk about Bait Boys Podcast merch. Now, for those of you who don't know, Anthony's kind of in charge of all the merchandise. He does a much better job at that than he does at picking sponsors. And he's also a model, if you didn't know. He's a model. He's got the Bait Boys Podcast shirt on right now, or one of our shirts. And
it's the OG.
Anthony, it's the OG. It's the first shirt. So why don't you give the people a little rundown of what is available and what are some of the new things that have been added since today? Really, I know you added a few today, but you're constantly adding stuff on there. So why don't you give us a little rundown of what's available?
So we got coffee mugs, rocks glasses, podcast rocks glass. I guess that's for whiskey. Mouse pads, koozies. We got shirts from all of our sponsors. The Lake Lax has been a hit. Lake Lax, it's one of our greatest sponsors. Yeah.
May have to redact that.
We'll talk about that more later. A pint glass, some stickers. If anyone has a suggestion, what you guys want to see, not you two. We talk about it all the time, but anybody watching, hoodies, drop a comment because it's not that hard for me to get these posted up here and cool merch to rep.
Definitely. And I think that I speak for everyone when I say thank you for taking that task on and for doing such a good job at it, Anthony.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll leave a description. We'll leave a description in the comments and a link on your doorstep. I'm so bad at this YouTube thing, but we'll leave a link in the description. And while you're down there, hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Show us a little bit of love. And then buy a t-shirt. Or two. And a hoodie. A rocks glass? Who doesn't want a good rocks glass?
Yeah.
With our awesome
we
Bait Boys logo on it? Like, it's, you can't go wrong.
have to recoup our money to pay Riverside.
Right. Riverside will be paying us before this is all over if anything else goes wrong. Anyway, sorry, I said I was going to move on from that. But yeah, no, it's a great way to support the channel. We really appreciate it. No, it's fine. We have the prices marked as pretty much as low as we can. We don't make a ton of money, but we make a little bit off of each purchase, so we do appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it's a couple bucks. Like I was saying before, if somebody on the West Coast buys something and the company, because it's all print on demand, if they produce it not local to them, then the shipping cost is factored in at the end. So we could make $1 or could make $3, but it's basically so we don't lose money. Maybe make a buck.
Every little bit helps. So we appreciate it. Grab yourself some fresh Bait Boys merch. And maybe if you make a purchase over, let's say $200, then you'll get a personalized video call from Trevor. Does that sound good?
Go. I will absolutely call somebody.
While he's driving.
They got to spend $500 for that.
$500.
Yeah.
For Trevor to break the law. That's great. And then one last little thing, just a reminder, we are on Spotify. So if you want the opportunity to download the episode and listen to it offline, if you're going to be out on the water, and don't have great cell reception, you can do that. It is available in both video and audio formats. So you can listen to both or watch our beautiful shining faces. You can, to each their own. If you enjoy that, then that option is available to you as well. And if you are listening to us on Spotify, a 5-star rating would be greatly appreciated. Even if you really think we're only 4-star, we're trying. We're getting better.
Yeah. Lie.
Be nice.
Lie. Exactly.
Yeah, just lie.
Lie for a good reason. To help
exactly. Us. Great point. Yeah, it's not hurting anybody. It's only helping us. So lie a little bit, even if you don't think we're that great. The 5-star will help more than it'll hurt. Yeah. So I think that wraps it up for the announcements. So since we don't have a guest today, we've kind of thought through a few things that we did want to talk about. Like I mentioned earlier, I just got back from a week-long fishing trip to Ontario, Canada. And aside from being a great trip, there were some things that happened along the way that I've not even told you two about because we were saving it for this. Because some wacky and inconvenient things definitely happened along the way. So let's just start from the beginning. So I had spent the previous week in Florida on a trip for my day job. So I work in the hospitality industry and our headquarters is based out of Orlando, Florida. So I spent a week down there doing normal work stuff. And I actually had to leave that early to go to this Canada trip. So I got back on Thursday afternoon. And the goal was to leave Friday morning. I was picking up my friend that I talked about in a previous episode, picking him up at his house at 6:30 a.m. And being the incredible planner that I am, I had packed absolutely nothing, not a thing. And so I had some work ahead of me. Oh, and that's the night that we recorded the podcast with John as well. So I'm like, hey, I've only got 8 hours to get stuff done. Let's do a 2-hour podcast too. That was my idea, not anybody else's. That was my idea. I was like, I can do it. It'll be fine. And for the most part, it was. I also, on the night before the trip back, I had to leave super early. I had to fly out super early from Orlando International. And I got like maybe 2.5 hours of sleep. So I'm already exhausted from the get. And I can't sleep on a plane. I'm a big guy and they're small seats. And I cannot sleep on a plane, no matter how tired I am. And so it's a long trip home. I get home early afternoon on Thursday and I'm like, I got to pack. I got to get all this stuff ready. I got to get a week's worth of supplies ready to go to Canada. And so I'm packing everything and I'm just getting to the point where I'm dropping stuff. And I just like, I've got to go to sleep. And I look at everything and I do a mental checklist of what I have left to do. And I'm like, that should only take me, I don't know, an hour and a half. So if I go to bed now and I'll wake up an hour and a half before I was planning on. I can just knock out the rest of it then. Well, gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, don't trust your mental checklist whenever you've basically gotten 2 hours of sleep in the last 48, because that checklist was wildly incomplete. There were so many other things that I had to do that I had completely forgotten about. So, the original plan was to pick my friend up at 4:30 at his house. And I immediately on the way back from Florida, I messaged him like, we're going to bump back to 6:30 just because I know I know my limits and I know I'm not going to be able to make 4:30. He in fact did not know his limits because I overestimated myself. I finally leave my house to pick him up at 9:30 a.m.
Close.
And he lives almost an hour north of me, which is the direction we're headed. So, yeah, about 7 hours late from the original plan. And we're meeting like this whole group just across the group that we're going with. It's a total of 13 guys. We're meeting them just across the Canadian border, where we're going to stay in a motel and then drive the remaining 2.5 hours to where we go to the camp. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. We get on the road. Finally, we're on the road. We're trucking up the highway on our way to Canada. We get, I think that it was almost 10 hours down the road. We're just north of Ames, Iowa. And I'm like, oh, I need to get my road snacks out of my backpack. I've got some beef sticks, some of those Nerds gummy clusters.
It took
I'm
you
like,
10 hours to need that? I would need that after hour 1.
Well, I mean, we had made some other stops along the way because my 4Runner gets like 13 miles to the gallon on a good day, and I'm pulling a boat, so we're more around 11. So we had to stop pretty frequently for gas. Anyway, we stop at this gas station. We're filling up, and I'm like, oh, well, we're stopped. I'm going to grab my backpack so I can get my road snacks out of it. And I am looking through the back of my 4Runner, and I'm like, where's my backpack? I can't find my backpack. And I'm tearing it apart, and I'm getting more and more panicked by the moment because, well, why is this such an important backpack? Great question, let me tell you. That backpack contained my Garmin graph for my boat. It contained all of my like phone chargers and everything. It had my toothbrush and everything in it, which all of those things, it's like, could I have fished without the Garmin? Yeah, I could have. It would have been fine. But the most important thing in that backpack was my passport. And for those of you who don't know, you do need a passport to cross the US-Canadian border in both directions. So here I am, almost 10 hours away from home. And I'm like, my backpack is not in here. So I call my wife and I'm like, she answers and I said, hey, it's my black backpack sitting in front of the big window in the front of the house. And she said, yeah, did you need that? And I was like, my passport's in that. She's like, oh. And so my wonderful wife, and stepping back just a second, I had a full checklist, like written out on my tablet, and I was like, I had everything in there, and I went over it. But when I put that passport in that backpack, in my brain, it was packed. It was ready, right? But it was pouring rain as I'm loading stuff into my car to get ready to leave. I mean, absolutely pouring rain here. And so with all of the important items that are in this backpack, I'm like, I'm going to take that out last when I go to leave. That way it doesn't get soaked or, messed up because it's got a lot of important stuff in it. Well, I forgot an important step in that. I was like, I felt so stupid because everybody and their dog that knew I was going to Canada was like, do you have your passport? Yeah, I got my passport. But like, of course I do. I'm not that dumb. I was in fact that dumb because I got everything else loaded up, kissed the wife goodbye, and walked out without the backpack. But my wonderful wife, I want to give her massive credit for this because she packed my daughter's bag, loaded up the dog, and headed north because we figured out that the halfway point between where I was and where she was just happened to be right where her parents live in Leavenworth, Kansas. So she loaded everything up, and the backpack, and started driving north, and Shane and I turned around and started driving south. And we met in Leavenworth about 10 p.m. at this point. And we were supposed to be almost to Canada at this by 10 p.m. because we were going to stay the night in a hotel and then drive the rest of the way with the rest of the guys. Well, this event put a little damper on that plan because I'm already behind. And now I'm an extra 6 hours behind because it was, or 7 hours behind because it was 3.5 hours of backtracking. And yeah, so we drove through the night, and what was supposed to be a 14-hour trip ended up taking 26. So we spent 26 straight hours in the car, and I drove 24 of it. And this is not a dig at my friend. He offered to drive. He was ready to drive whenever he wanted to. I was just so fueled by anger that I was like, and him being a very respectful person, he's like, this is your car. This is your boat. I'm going to drive carefully and the speed limit. And I was like, forget that. No, we're going. And so I didn't want to put him in the position of like, here, drive, be responsible for all of this, these valuable things. And, oh, by the way, speed, right? Break some laws. So I did let him drive for a couple of hours just so I could kind of crash out for a minute. I can't sleep any better in a car than I can on a plane. But by this point, like by the time the anger wore off, I was pretty exhausted. So I did, I maybe slept for 15 minutes of that 2 hours, but it was enough to get me the rest of the way, recharge the anger and the hatred. And we get up to, and so we're just going straight to the boat launch because this camp that we're going to, you can't get there by road. You have to go, it's very remote, Ontario, Canada, and you put in at a boat launch and park your vehicle, put all your gear in your boat, and it's a 40-minute boat trip to the camp. So we get to the boat launch about 2 hours after most of the other guys have already taken off and gone to the camp. But the people that I knew that were going on that, they waited for us. Shout out to those guys. Jerry, Dave, and Connor, they waited for us so that they could show us how to get to the camp once we got there. And I felt terrible for putting them behind, but we eventually got there. There were some other inconveniences that happened along the way. I have the bladder of a small child, so we're already late. And that's what happens when you get old, man. It's just you get hit and you get very little warning. So don't try to push past it because it's not going to work. Trust me, I know. And we're trying to get there. I bought a Canadian eSIM card so my phone would work. I couldn't figure out how to get it to work. So it's like as soon as we're 10 miles from the Canadian border, my phone stops working. His phone stops working. And so I'm trying to figure out where we're at and how we're getting there because I've lost GPS. I have GPS signal, but I lost the map. Because like an idiot, I restarted my phone thinking that would get the SIM card to work. It didn't. And it turns out there was just some stupid setting that I didn't read all the instructions and didn't change a thing on it. But eventually we got there. And then from that point forward, everything was pretty awesome. Like we went to the camp. It was a cool little place. Shout out Jim's Caviar Camp on the Little Caviar Lake in Ontario near Kenora, I think is how you pronounce it. And had an amazing time. I caught more fish in those 6 days that we fished than I probably have in the last 2 years. And it was mostly smallmouth is what I caught the most of. But we also caught some largemouth, a lot of pike. There's also muskie and walleye in that lake, but we didn't really try for them, and lake trout. But we didn't really target those very much. We were just pounding the banks with chatterbaits, man. Like in the smallmouth, I caught my record smallmouth, my personal best, my PB smallmouth. It was just over 3.5 pounds. And I was, here's another funny story. I caught that smallmouth and I know it's probably bigger than, I caught a one that was just over 3 pounds here in Missouri a couple years ago. And I knew that this was bigger. I didn't know how much bigger. I just knew it was bigger. And so I get my scale out and I weigh this fish. And so I've got my scale in one hand and the fish in the other. And I'm like, I got to get pictures of this. And apparently, I don't remember doing this, but apparently what I did was I threw my scale in the water and grabbed my phone out of my pocket. Right. So you've seen the videos of guys that are like they're getting their phone out to take a picture of the fish and
yeah,
like they throw their phone in the water for whatever reason. I wasn't even throwing the fish back. Like you just get your hands confused because you're meaning to throw the fish back, but you like, no, I wasn't going to throw the fish back yet. So I don't know why I did it. And I didn't even realize I had done it until he's like, dude, you just threw your scale in the water. And I'm like, did I? I did. Why did I do that? Now, luckily it was a super cheap scale. And he's like, do you want to try to fish it out? Because the water wasn't that shallow, but it wasn't that deep, but it wasn't that shallow either. So it really would have taken some like, and the water was pretty clear, but I couldn't see the scale. I had no idea where it was because I didn't even remember throwing it in the water. And I'm like, it's not waterproof, so it doesn't really matter. I hate that I left it in that beautiful, pristine lake, but there was no chance of me getting it out. And I was like, it was a super cheap scale.
You ever do that with a bait?
Like throw a bait overboard? Like you're tying something else on, you take it off and you throw it out?
Like you think you tied it on, yeah, and then you'd like toss it in the water and go to reel it up, and it's not even on.
No,
I've done that on my
it sounds like something I would do.
Times. I'm like not paying attention. I think I tied it on. I toss it in the water, go to reel it up. Nothing there. I'm like, great. That's gone.
Yeah. But at that point, it didn't matter. I had my PB Smalley. It was a big fat boy. Like all the fish up there, because it was pre-spawn up there. So all of them are still bellied up. Like even the little fish up there were just chunky. Like the ones that are shorter, they'd be like 1.5 pounds here. They were 2 pounds there. Like it was
Was it very grassy?
There was a lot of grass. There was, yeah, they had a ton of grass. So the cool thing about these, I've never fished a natural lake before. All the lakes around here are man-made. They've dammed up a river and created a lake. These were all natural lakes, and there was so much water in the area, just in the general vicinity. If you look at it on the map, it's more blue than green. Like it's in like a massive, massive area. And it's all protected. So other than the camp I was staying at, which has been there for like 35 years, I saw maybe 3 buildings on this lake. And we're talking thousands, probably tens of thousands of acres of water. And
that's awesome.
Us and the other guys we were with were the only boats I ever saw. I would go hours. There were times where we went half a day and didn't see another boat. Unless we were like intentionally staying with that boat to go to a place.
Did you go night fishing?
Did not do any night fishing, mainly because, judge me, why don't you? Jeez.
Disappointed.
Well, dude, I fished all day.
Doesn't matter.
From 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., dude. I was on the water. But yeah. And then no, it was a great trip. I caught which people who pike fish a lot, this is not a big pike, but it's the biggest pike I ever caught, which was 26 inches.
I've never even.
But even the pike were fat. The pike were fat. And like, because pike are normally long and skinny, but even the pike were chunked up, because it's like there's so many different fish in this lake that if you're a predator fish, it's just the place to be, because you're not getting fished. There's not a lot of pressure. There's tons of forage. Like it's a great place to be a fish until I show up, and then you better run for your life, because like even this, and all the other guys were saying, man, this is the slowest it's ever been up here. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is even like the absolute best day I've ever had fishing is blown out of the water by the slowest day I had there. Like on the slowest day, I still caught 20 fish. And I know, rare. Trevor, you wanted a fish count. Days. I lost. Yeah. Trevor, we were talking before we started recording that you wanted a fish count, right?
Yes.
I lost count. I lost count every day, because if I caught I caught 100 fish easily if I caught one. Like there's no doubt in my mind I broke 100 total fish. Now, were all of them hogs? No. But it got to the point where I'm like, my wrist is sore from setting the hook. I've got a callus on my hand from casting. My thumbs are torn up. Like all these are complaints that I'd love to have. And I know, right? Oh, poor me. No, it was great. I loved every minute of it. I loved every second of it. But it got so bad, it was to the point where if I was trying to target, like when we first got there, I was like, I want to catch a fish. I don't care what kind of fish it is. I just want to catch fish. But then it got by the last day, I was like, oh, it's another tiny pike. Like, and this thing's 16 inches long, which is small for a pike, but like it fights. They hit so hard. Like you can always tell whether it's a bass or a pike whenever you're up there because pike hit it so freaking hard, especially the small ones. The small ones hit it like jackhammers. The bigger ones are a little softer on it, but the small ones, the only thought in their mind is eat, and they don't care what it is. So as long as it's moving and flashy, they will eat it. But it got to the point where it was like, can I just catch another smallmouth? I don't want to catch another pike. Like it got that bad. I got so spoiled, and I cannot wait until I go out on my local lakes and get a reality check of just how good the fishing was up there, because it was nuts. And everybody did well, but like I said, the guys that had been there before, like, this is the slowest it's ever been since we've been coming here. And I'm like, that's funny because this is the best fishing I've ever experienced in my entire life. So yeah, it was great. We finally reached the end of it. We left a day earlier than everybody else because both Shane and I had to get back. He had to work, and I had my daughter's dance recital that I needed to get to. So we come back. It's the drive back went much better.
That's good.
And credit to Shane, because Shane's a really nice guy, very positive guy. I just peopled for 2 weeks straight, and I don't
That's
people
tough.
well for that amount of time. I can people really well in short spurts, but I just peopled for 2 weeks straight, and I was grumpy. I was tired. I was like, especially on the ride back, I was like, I struggled. So Shane, I'm sorry. I know that I got a little testy at times,
Poor
but
Shane.
we're still friends. We still talk. Yeah, I know. I dump him in the water whenever we go fishing one time, and then this time I'm a jerk on the drive home.
That's
But
what you think.
no,
You think you're still friends. He blocked you.
Well, he texted me today, so I'm sorry. Sorry, Shane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was. Go ahead, Trevor.
He's wooing you into a false sense of security
Yeah.
by texting.
Maybe he's still got that whole
He's pissed.
falling in the water fiasco, and then I just built on top of it.
He sounds all right.
No, he's a cool guy. He's a great friend of mine, and we do a lot of hunting and fishing stuff related activities together. So he's kind of like one of my very few friends that enjoys doing that type of thing. So he was down for the long haul trip to Canada, and no, he did great. And he caught he broke all of his personal records as far as smallmouth, largemouth. He'd never caught a pike before. I'd only caught small ones in Colorado. So he caught the biggest pike of the trip. He caught a 30-incher.
Damn.
So he did good, and he's a good guy, and he's like, but his positivity is overwhelming to a person like me who struggles to look on the bright side. Anybody else would think he's and everybody else up there thought he was great, and I think he's great. Don't get me wrong. It's just I can only take so much positivity at a time, and that's a me
Come
problem,
on,
not a him problem.
Bro, just
That's
tell
a
me
me
it
problem.
sucks.
Would you just tell me that you're having a bad time so I know that both of us are and it's not just me? No, it was just me, and that was the problem. It wasn't a him issue, it was a me issue. But overall the trip was fantastic. All the way up until the point I got back and realized that the last podcast was screw up. I'm sorry I keep going back to that, but it was it's
giving you PTSD.
a little bit. And apparently I'm not known for focusing on the positive side of things. So here we are. But that was Canada. It was beautiful. It was amazing.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah, you would hate it. You would hate it. Catching big fish all day, eating fish for lunch every day. Yeah, it was
awful.
It was
I'd rather
terrible.
go to work.
Yeah, I would not recommend. Yeah, absolutely, no question. Would much rather hang out at work. But yeah, that was anything else you want to know that I didn't think of to tell you? Because this is the first time you're hearing all of this stuff. So, is there anything I didn't cover?
Did you throw the noggin?
Oh, so fun story about the noggin. I didn't fish with it much, just because I designed the noggin to be basically a crappie bait, right? Because that's what we have here. That's what I'm familiar with. That's what that's what I like to catch a lot of crappie. And so I designed it as a crappie bait. They do have crappie in the lakes up there, but they're pretty scarce and they're hard to catch. I did catch one, and I did catch one on the noggin, And that's because I had a point to prove, because one of the owners of the place up there, Bridget, we were doing our initial spiels about limits and where to go and what to do. And Bridget's, she's a hardcore angler. She's, musky. She knows what she's doing. But she told me, I said, well, I want to go after crappie. I hear you have crappie up here. She's like, you're not going to catch any crappie. I said, I don't know. It's kind of my thing. I like to catch crappie. I even have a crappie bait that I sell and that I designed. And she's like, you're not going to catch nothing. She's like, stick to the bass and pike. They bite all the time. She's like, you're not going to get these crappie to bite this time of year. And so I took that as a challenge, and I went out and I caught one crappie. I caught one 10-inch crappie. It wasn't even a big one, but I caught one, and I took that fish back to her. And I walked into the lodge, and it had been pouring that day. I'm in my rain suit and everything, and I've got this fish. I'm like, Bridget, where are you? I'm like, you told me I wouldn't catch anything. And I held that fish up and showed it to her. She's like, I cannot believe you caught a crappie. And that was the only one I caught the entire time. And I tried a few different spots with the noggin. It's just, they couldn't find them. Couldn't find the crappie. Even where she told me the crappie were, I couldn't find them. So they're post spawn at this point up there. So they're scattered everywhere. So it's hard to track them down, and they're very difficult to find at this point. But I did catch a crappie, and I showed so there's a few people, and I'm not sure what the ownership situation is, but there's a couple people that I talked to that are up there regularly, and I'm pretty sure they're the owners, Jordan and Bridget. And I was showing them the noggin, and they were like, this would be a great walleye bait. I'm like, I assumed that, but I don't have any walleye really to speak of where I'm at, so I couldn't really test that. And so I gave them a full set of them and said, here, try them out, and if you like them, we'll work something out. And so they had some guys the day after we left take some out, and they said they did pretty good. Jordan is I talked with him, traded some messages with him. He's going to take them out and test them out himself. But yeah, they said they want to carry them at the lodge up there. So that's pretty
awesome.
cool. Yeah. My first distributor other
Yeah.
than me. And they're booked all, they're closed down in the winter because the winter just gets to be too bad up there. But they are booked. I think he said they had 16 total nights available from now until the end of the season, like in total. And they have several cabins up there, so they're busy. So if I can, they did request a few different colors, and I'm like, I'll paint you whatever you want. I know the guy who makes them. So yeah. And then Jerry, one of the other guys we were there with, he caught a small lake trout on one. So I have a picture of that.
I was going to say,
It wasn't a big.
I was going to say they're probably good for lake trout. From my understanding of how to catch those, which I don't really know, but I've never targeted them.
Yeah, I haven't either, and we didn't really try. But Jerry went out on basically a guided trip for lake trout, and he and a couple of the other guys had him tied on, and he had a bite from a big one, but it got off. And that was something that they even said is like, this would be a good lake trout bait, but it needs bigger hooks because it's just got size 8 trebles on it right now as it ships. So it would just need some bigger hooks because their mouths are a little harder. But that's an easy fix. So maybe I'll. I wouldn't have known any of this stuff until I went up there to talk to people who actually walleye fish regularly and actually lake trout fish regularly. Because, I was like, it's a crappie bait, but apparently it's much more versatile. So available now at freakbaits.com. Actually, it's not. It's sold out. It's sold out right now, but I'm in the process of making some more. Yeah. So
it's awesome.
The noggin was a big hit in Canada.
But the chatterbait's the way to go.
Chatterbait or spinnerbait, man, they were tearing it up. And the only reason I switched to the chatterbait is because I lost all my spinnerbaits. I took several up there, and I'm notorious for misjudging my casts. And there may be one or two in trees, not trees in the water either, around that lake. I feel bad for that, but I couldn't get to them. So yeah. But then, the last thing I had was a white chatterbait left. Or no, I even lost the white chatterbait and switched to a black chatterbait, and it worked too. And yeah, with just a soft plastic paddle tail swimmer trailer, and everything ate it. Largemouth, smallmouth, pike, everything wanted that thing.
Can't go wrong.
That was the way to go. Next time I go up there, I'm taking like 20 of each, so not going to run out.
Nice.
But yeah. So yeah, that was Canada. Going back next year. officially got invited back by the group, so my spot is solidified. Just going to make sure that the trip up there is a little less eventful. But okay, so the moment we've all been dreading since we started this. So we don't have a sponsor for this week. We do have something that we are legally obligated to show based on one of our previous sponsors, or else face some litigation issues. So we're required to show this, so I'll go ahead and roll it now.
This is bad. It's real bad.
Hello, I'm Randy Stitt, founding partner of Stitt and Wobble Attorneys at Law, because no one should have to choose between tight lines and loose guts. Have you or a fishing buddy experienced unexpected bowel activity after using Lake Lax? Did your soft plastics not survive the splash zone? Did you find yourself pants half down on the bow of a john boat using a tackle catalog as toilet paper while screaming, "Don't look at me!" at your fishing partner? You may be entitled to compensation. At Stitt and Wobble, we're currently pursuing a class action lawsuit against the makers of Lake Lax for catastrophic mid-cast evacuation, dockside code browns, rods dropped mid-grunt, emotional trauma for pooping over the side of the kayak in front of strangers, and permanent fear of bubble gut after tournament disqualifications. If you feel that these apply to you, call 1-800-CAST-AND-GO now. That's 1-800-CAST-AND-GO. Stitt and Wobble, we fight for your right to fish.
It's terrible.
So yeah, Lake Lax, I'm staying out of it, but it sounds like they are under some pretty serious allegations at this point in time. Allegedly. Nothing.
They're just getting hate.
Allegedly.
They're just getting hate. It's people who don't know how to fish, in my opinion. But call up Stitt and Wobble if you got a problem.
Yeah. Call Stitt and Wobble if you'd like to be a part of it. If you or someone you love has been affected by Lake Lax. Don't show that.
I'm still taking it. Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Boy,
I'm gonna have to
we're
talk
gonna
to
have to show
Randy.
Yeah, go talk to. He's going to be calling you after this airs, I'm sure. I bet it's the powderized tungsten.
I heard they're coming out with a new formula. I don't know. We'll see. I'll just stop. I'll stop.
Let's. Yeah. So yes, if you or someone you love has been impacted by taking Lake Lax, then call that number and join the class action suit. Maybe
Sometimes
you can be
things
compensated.
they just don't work out.
Yeah. So now that our legal obligations have been addressed,
fulfilled.
Yes, there we go. There's words. There, good words. I not good words. You good words. The
man of few words.
primary. You're a man of few words, Trev, but whenever you say words, they're good words. So
Good words.
I word good.
you words good. You words good. All right. So since it's just the three of us, we don't have a guest this week. We want to have a main topic for this podcast. And I think that this is a good discussion for us to have because we all three have kind of different experiences and viewpoints on it. Now, I want to clarify that this is not a debate. We are not going to come to a final resolution of what is better, but we're going to have a discussion around wood baits versus resin baits. And for those of you who don't, if you're watching this, you probably should know, but if you don't know, thank you for just watching the podcast organically, I guess. But I primarily do hand-carved wooden baits. I do a little bit of resin stuff, like the noggins we were talking about earlier, resin. My Slim Thick Glide bait is resin. But most of the time I do hand-carved wood baits. Anthony and Trevor, is it fair to say that you guys only do resin? Well, and Trevor does soft plastics too. Anthony doesn't because his wife won't let him anymore.
And I won't touch it.
But you guys are primarily designing and making resin baits, correct? Polyurethane resin,
Correct.
stuff like that. And there's a group, there are groups of people who are super polarized either way. Imagine that, people being polarized in today's world. What that, like, unheard of.
Unbelievable.
Shame on them.
But exactly, like there's so much to agree on. But there are groups of people out there that are like, if it's not hand carved wood, it's not worth a dime. And there's other people out there that is like, if it's not resin, it's not worth anything, right?
Dude,
I don't
I
think
have
that.
I have to jump in real quick.
Go for it, jump.
Wait, give me 1 second. I'm scrolling up through my messages with somebody. I'm not going to say who this was.
This should be good.
This is going to be hard to find. It was somebody we know who got messages from someone on Instagram just absolutely tearing him up because he 3D models baits.
Oh, yeah.
Did
I
he
saw
talk to
that.
you? Did you talk to him about
No,
it?
he posted it.
Oh, yeah. So he shared it.
He posted it in his stories. So we can talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, he shared it on his story and posted about it. So I guess we could say it, a Hunlors, but and that's, some people are like that. It's like, if it's not carved wood, they think it's like you're cheating or something.
Yeah, and the same dude has to have a screw loose because he made those comments on a post where Victor was showing a wooden lure.
Yeah, that guy definitely had a screw loose. But some people are normal and are like that, which is fine. They have a preference.
Yeah,
that guy was off the rocker though.
Yeah,
he was saying crazy stuff.
Like, because Victor was like, "This is a wooden lure," and he's like,
"Yeah,
that you 3D printed." I'm like, and Victor's like, "How do you 3D print wood?" And he's like, "You mix glue with sawdust and print." Yeah. Duh. It's like,
I think he was just a troll, but then I went through.
I hope so. Genuinely, for his family's sake, I hope so.
Mix the glue and the sawdust and print.
That's what he said.
Yeah, he did. I can't find the messages, but they were ridiculous. He kept going and going and going too, just like tearing him up. And Victor's talented in both. So, like, I don't understand why you targeted him of all people. Like,
exactly.
But yeah, that's kind of the viewpoint from some people, that if it's not hand carved, you're not talented. Which, I mean, to each their own. Everyone can have their own viewpoint, but I can tell you it is a whole nother skill set to learn how to do some of the stuff on a computer, which I enjoy. I love that part of it. Like, I could sit down for hours and just design a lure and I'll never even make it. And I've done that 20 times already, just because I like, it's like sculpting and carving, and just without your hands. It's on a screen.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, like, you enjoy doing that. So that, I think that's a good opportunity for us to kind of go around and talk about, like, so they're just preferences for everybody. They're preferences. And folks, it's not that serious. It's fishing. Okay. It's not that serious. Like, you can have your preferences. That is A-okay. That is your right to have your preference and your opinion. But to go on somebody else's post and just rip them a new one because you think they 3D printed their wood bait, which that's an extreme, but there are definitely people out there that are like, if it's not hand carved wood, one of one, then it's not worth a dime. And I've seen it on the other side. It's like, whenever I post a wooden bait, and it hasn't happened frequently, but like especially on the real weird ones are on Facebook. Let's be honest. But early on, when I was posting wooden baits on Facebook, I had people say that's going to fall apart the minute it hits the water. Like, no, it's not. Like,
why?
I mean, it's not made of titanium, but
they were outside in nature for years.
Yeah, exactly. But so let's kind of go around and talk about our preferences, because I'm sure we all have them, and kind of the why you think that why you prefer the way you do it. Not necessarily that it's superior to another way, but why do you prefer the way that you do it? So who wants to start?
Want me to go first?
Trevor's going to go first. Let's hear your thoughts, Trev.
How did it start? Or why did I end up where I'm at? I started.
Why do you prefer the way that you're doing it?
Because I started with wood. It was very unforgiving. I got injured and out of commission a little bit. And I was like, screw this. I was like, I need my fingers to tattoo.
That's a good
fair point. Fair point.
That was it. It put me out of commission for like 2 weeks. The injury I got, I put a drill bit through a couple fingers. And yeah. So I was like, you know what? So then I started modeling stuff out of clay. And then here I am making stuff out of resin. But yeah, I prefer resin. It's a lot safer. I have well, so far it's been a lot safer. I have had some injuries, some accidents, but that's life, right? Does that answer?
That's fair to say. Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, and you've got valid points there all the way across. It is more forgiving whenever you're pouring resin into a mold. Now, I think that there is something to be said for like the creation of the mold itself, which is something
Absolutely.
I've always struggled with. So it's a whole other skill set to be able to do that, like Anthony said earlier. But I think it's a valid point. What about you, Antler?
So I'm looking at my spider. It looks dead, but it's probably just asleep.
Yeah. Anthony has a whole menagerie of strange animals in his house, by the way, in case anybody doesn't know. It's not just a pet
Or-
like wolf spider in the corner of the ceiling.
Yeah. No, there's a bunch of them. Yeah, I started with wood, and it was very difficult to be consistent. Like, you make one and weigh it, and you make a second one that's similar, and it's not going to be the same every single time. So you add all these extra steps of, sealing the bait, dialing it in for the sink rate that you want, and, drilling holes and then sealing it again. It just seemed inefficient, and I wasn't very good at it. Like, I can't carve. I can't, like, sit there and make a nice gill line and then cut the angle behind it. Like, I'm going to end up cutting my thumb off. I can use a sander, like my belt sander. That's how I would shape them. And that was like the extent of it. I'm like, I'll add details in later with something, paint. So I had messed around with Fusion 360, and I designed like a little rat, and it was a weasel. And I actually still made it out of wood, but I CNC'd it in multiple pieces and then glued it all together. And that was cool. I liked making those. They caught a lot of fish. But I wanted to get into resin because you make it once, you make a master, and then you can just be consistently copying that same one. So whereas I can make maybe 1 or 2 a day on the CNC out of wood, I could, if I have time, sit down for an hour and pour 10 baits, 20 baits, and, that'll last longer. And in my opinion, they're just more consistent as long as you weigh everything out properly. But yeah, I'm basically a nerd. I prefer to do it on a computer. And, yep. So now
That's fair.
now I 3D print the molds. So I'll 3D print a master mold, pour silicone, and then pour
Glue and
resin
dust?
into that.
Sawdust?
Yeah, so what I do is I go out in my backyard and I sweep up the dust behind the shed, and I put resin on it, and then I put it in my cauldron, and I put it out in the sun. And
You
that's
don't
how it
put it
makes
in
the
a-
mold.
Before or after the crucible?
The crucible comes last. Yep. The crucible's last. That's to cure it. That's the final cure.
That's it.
Yep.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
so what about you? Why do you prefer wood?
No. So having done both, I see the benefits of both and like the advantages and disadvantages of both. I prefer wood because I feel like I have ultimate control over how that bait's going to turn out. And I enjoy, like, my favorite part of the entire process is the carving, right? I like all of it, but the carving is my Zen space. When I'm making all the stuff that you hated about it is the stuff that I love about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love carving the details. I love starting with a square block of wood and by the end of it having something that looks like a real fish, right? Or whatever's in my head is now real. And I know that there's similarities between that and 3D modeling because I've done some of that too. That's how I made the noggin, thanks to you, Anthony, and watching you do the things that you do and doing a little research on my own. I've done both, and I'm in the process. Like, I'm continuing to make 3D models and stuff like that. So that's also rewarding. It's just, for me, it's easier to do it physically than it is on a computer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more in tune with it. And it's not some like hippy dippy stuff. Like, the tactile feel of it works better in my brain than looking at a screen and making stuff happen there. It's still cool and I still enjoy doing it. It's just not the same level of satisfaction as whenever I'm carving raw wood into a bait. And I think that the drawbacks of wood is you make one, you spend hours and hours and hours in making one bait, and you have one bait. Now, some people would say that makes it special. because there's only one of them, and there'll never be another one exactly like it. Like, you can try. I've tried, and I have tried before, but like trying to keep, even making them at the same time, trying to keep two baits identical when you're working in wood is nearly impossible. I've never been able to do it, but it's definitely like that's a good thing whenever you're talking about if you want something that is more of an art piece, something special, something unique, something that nobody else has, then yeah, hand carved wooden bait is the way to go. And I can't speak for everybody that makes wooden baits out there, but I put a lot of time and effort into both making them look good and making them durable. Like, I don't want that thing coming apart. So the people that say it's going to fall apart as soon as it hits the water, that's not, I mean, I don't know what your experience has been. And I'm sure that there's people out there that have made wooden baits that they're like, nobody's ever going to fish with this, so I don't have to be really careful about it. But I do. Every single time I'm making a wooden bait, I want it to be durable. I want it to have a great action. I want it to do exactly what I want it to do. And then to your point of dialing it in, the reason you don't like doing that with wood is the same reason I do like doing it with wood. I enjoy just the small tweaks and modifications until you get it just absolutely perfect. And whenever I'm doing a resin bait, I've already got the weight in the mold. Now, you have a more consistent outcome for sure, because once you figure it out once, you're done. And for each wooden bait, you have to figure it out on its own, because two blocks of wood that are identical size and of identical species can have different levels of buoyancy. So even if you are able to make them perfectly identical, you're probably going to have, a couple of percentage points of grams of lead that it's going to be, or weight that's going to need to be different. And I like that challenge. I like that part of it. That's the challenge of it all, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Is that's why I prefer to work in wood. But I love the convenience of the resin. I love the fact that I can get on a computer and we'll say a little while later, because I'm sure you're much faster at it than I am. For me, it's usually a few days at least to design the master and then 3D print it and make a mold out of it. Like, that's really cool too. And I enjoy it. I just don't enjoy it as much as I do working in wood. And I don't, and this is a drawback for me. I don't like making the same bait over and over again. And nothing wrong with that people that do it, like you guys, even the ones that are the same bait that you've poured, you guys are always great about and even if you're painting them the same, they've always got enough individual flair that kind of, that compensates for it being the same bait. And I'm not that you need to compensate for anything. I'm trying to tread very lightly, because I hope you know I'm not trying to insult either one of you, because you both do fantastic work.
Lightly.
You both do fantastic work in resin baits, but all of the mass market baits out there, it's got a splotch of red paint here, a stripe of a white paint here, some chartreuse on the belly, and it's like, and that's it. And I could not imagine, which they probably do it well with the machines, but I could not imagine churning out 100 of the same bait. I would lose my mind if I did that. It's hard for me to do 10 of the same bait. Even if I'm painting them different colors, just making 10 of the same bait in resin, which I've had to do it multiple times, but it's, by the end of it, I'm like, I never want to make another one of these things again, because it's just my attention span is so short.
So there's been times like I put out a bait that I painted, and then people are like, I want that one again. Or like, I want that one. And I'm like, I have no idea how to make it again. Like, I don't know how to do that paint job again. Because when I sit down and paint, I have like a vision. But like, I just, have a reference picture or some type of like something. And I just pick colors and start mixing them and blending them. Like, I do not remember how to make a bait again. So if you see it, that's it. It's probably going to be the only time I make it. I could try something similar, but that's what keeps it fun. Like, I also, I couldn't like make a specific gill pattern for, say, like one of my smaller swim baits and then post it on the website and have them available all the time, because that means I have to sit there and paint that same pattern over and over and over and over, and that feels like work. So
yeah, I agree, because when I did the pre-orders for the Slim Thicks, and several people pre-ordered them, there was specifically the the bone colored one, the black and blue bone. That was the most popular one out of all of them. And it's such a simple paint scheme. And so I'm sitting here on my, 8th black and blue bone in a row. And I'm like, it started out as my favorite color. And by the end of it, it was my least favorite color because I had to paint so many of them. So, and that was my fault for like offering them in specific colorways. And the same with the noggins. The noggins are super simple paint schemes. Doesn't take a lot of paint. They're tiny, but it drives me nuts sitting there painting the same thing over and over and over again. Trev, do you ever find fatigue?
It sucks the creativity out of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Find fatigue in painting?
And painting the same thing over and over again. Like, do you, because I know I've seen that you post like you'll have multiple baits that you've painted similar. It's usually just like 2 or 3. It's not usually like a huge ton of them, but have you ever been in that situation?
Yeah, it gets monotonous, having to start over, same steps, but 3's like the limit. Like I don't do more than 3 of the same. Like I can't handle it mentally.
Agreed.
I agree.
That's why I try to do like a different paint every single time, but that's getting difficult too. To always try to change it, and
you're doing great at it. From the outside,
we said it before.
It doesn't look difficult. Not from where I'm sitting.
I appreciate
you make it look easy. I know it's not easy, but you make it look easy. Yeah, you've got some awesome stuff out there. But yeah, I think that ultimately what we're all trying to say is, if you're looking at getting into bait making and you're wondering, do you start with resin? Do you start with wood? It's kind of up to you. There's no better way of doing it. There's no right way of making baits, in my experience, that I've found. Having, we've all dabbled in both, right? And you guys
say start with wood.
You
for
think so?
A few reasons. Yeah, because and I've had this experience with people who I made molds for, and they don't quite understand weighing a bait and how how adjusting the joint or sanding the, making the angle of the joint, how it's going to affect the bait. And not saying that I do, because I struggle with it all the time, but you learn a lot being able to, even if your bait has no detail, you can shape it and understand those basics. If you start with resin, you're skipping way ahead and not learning the basics. That's the nice thing about wood. You could just sit down for an hour and make something. Whereas a resin bait, you have to make a silicone mold, and if it's not, if it wasn't shaped right in an area, and well, now that mold is garbage, and you learn a lot from doing it out of a piece of wood and seeing how everything affects the way it swims.
That's
and
fair.
then once you know that and you feel like you have a comfortable grasp, then jump into resin, because it's also a big investment. You have to buy micro balloons, you have to buy silicone, you have to buy resin, you have to buy all this scale, all this stuff just to be able to pour one. And then
That's
it might not work.
And I guess, to play devil's advocate to that, I guess it also depends on how involved you want to get with it. Because somebody could go out and purchase a ready-made bait mold from Lazy Baits Co., because I know that those are offered periodically. Somebody could go out and make and immediately have everything that they need, short of the the consumables, have everything that they need to start making baits right now, and you'll have your first one in 20 minutes, right? You'll have something ready to paint. Like, if you don't care about the learning and the trial, the trial and error process, and if you're not interested in designing your own baits and you just want to make baits, maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Right? If you just want to make your own.
If you're willing to put that in initial investment out.
Yeah,
because
that is a good point too.
Where you could get a piece of wood, and so if you want to just start your business and just jumpstart it and buy some molds, yeah, if there's pre-made stuff you can get, like from me or anybody, even whatever, soft plastics, you don't have to understand how they work. You buy the mold and they already work. That's a good way to get your business jump started and maybe learn it after the fact. If you have that capital to start your business that way. Most people probably don't. Like, all of us, it's taken years to get where we're at. Like, the business still, I invest everything extra into the business. And that's kind of how it is for the first few years of any business. I feel like people get discouraged because they're not, they go a month or two without selling baits. Well, I go a month or two without selling baits still sometimes, but you look at the bigger picture, like down the line, and you have to enjoy it because we're not millionaires, contrary to our question later.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say if you're getting into bait making to make money, don't. Like if you don't care about the process, you don't care about learning, like, and you're not passionate about it, save yourself the hassle and find a different thing to do. Because it's not, you're not going to make a ton of money, especially right off the get. Like you're not going to, even if you do purchase a ready, a mold that has everything and all the instructions and you're ready to start, or soft plastics or anything like that, even if you do make that initial investment, because that stuff's not cheap. It's not cheap at all, to your point, Anthony. And the resin's not cheap if you're buying good resin. The silicone is not cheap if you want to get the right type of silicone. Like none of it's cheap. And yes, could you possibly earn that back in the long haul? Yeah. But you're not going to make money right off the bat. It's just not going to happen. I've not seen anybody who's able to do that. Even the big, the bigger small makers out there, they struggled for a while before they caught attention and started really making anything off of it, or at least paying, beyond their initial investment, paying themselves back for their initial investment. I know I'm still in that process of it. I'm still paying myself back for the initial investment and I still got a ways to go, but that's not why I do it. I've got a day job. I'm not looking for this massive additional revenue stream. I do it because I like it and I enjoy the process and I enjoy learning about it. So if that's not you, I would suggest steering clear altogether. If you're trying to make money, resell stuff on eBay. Like
start a landscaping business.
Yeah. Go mow lawns, go detail cars, go. Yeah. You'll make money right from the beginning with well, it depends, I guess, on what type of lawnmower you get, but like just put in some hard work and you'll make money. Bait making is not that way.
Buy a pack of cigarettes and sell them as Lucy's. $10 to $12 initial investment. Sell them for $1 each. Your $12 is now $20. And rinse and repeat. You're already making more money on one pack.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's one way to go about it.
We all enjoy it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, we wouldn't be doing it. We wouldn't be making a podcast about it. We wouldn't be making content about it. It kind of comes back to you. If you're thinking about it, whether it's resin or wood, back to our initial topic, like do whatever you're passionate about and only do it if you're passionate about it. Don't, and to your point, Anthony, I think starting off in wood is a good way to go about it because you don't have to. Because what happens if you make your first mold and the bait's junk? Then you have to start from square one, right? And it's much easier to start with square one with a new block of wood than it is designing an entire bait from scratch. So I definitely see and agree with what you're saying there. I think that's a good point. So maybe start off in wood, but maybe you'll be like me and stick with it, or maybe you'll be like these guys and decide, it was a good start and it got you interested in it, but maybe resin's the way to go for you. So to kind of end this segment here and say, I think we're all in agreement that neither is superior to the other. It all kind of depends on what you're looking for and what you, from a buying perspective and from a making perspective, it's what do you enjoy doing, right? And maybe you do both. Maybe you like both equally and you just become the most successful bait maker ever because you do it all. You're able to do both of them all the time. But I don't think that either one they both have their place, I guess is what I'm trying to say. What do you guys think?
I agree.
I think I appreciate both because I know the amount of effort that gets put into making a bait no matter how it's made, and it's kind of overlooked.
100%.
by some people who might not understand the process, which makes sense. If you've never done it, you don't understand how much work goes into it, no matter how you're doing it. So I appreciate both. I agree.
Yeah. And I will say, from a, like, if you're looking to sell baits perspective, they're kind of six of one, half a dozen of the other, because can you sell a unique, especially if you're good at it, can you sell a unique wooden bait, like a one-of-a-kind wooden bait, for more than you can sell a resin bait for? Potentially. But you can make 10 of those resin baits in the time it takes you to make one of the wooden baits. So it kind of evens out. There actually might be more money in resin. I'm just not willing to admit it. But, you know, selling a one-of-a-kind wooden swim bait, yeah, there is a market for it, but there's a bigger market for selling something that's durable, that people want to fish, that looks great, that works well, and that they're going to use, especially if it's at a reasonable price. I think that, yeah, it's money-wise, it's pretty well even, in my opinion, for at least from my experience. And
there's companies that, you know, small guys that make tons of wooden baits, and they look great, you know, like, I don't know how they're replicating them, but
yeah, I've seen that. It's beyond me. Like, I don't know how they turn them out like that.
And you just got to come up with a process, you know? You come up with a process that works for you. I don't know. Maybe they sit there and do all the gills one day, you know? So they're in a routine, or they have some type of jig they're using. Like, yeah, if you enjoy it, you'll figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
Whether it's
exactly.
making money or whatever you want to do, as long as you're enjoying it. Yeah, I think they're both good options.
Yep. Cool. All right. So are we done talking about resin versus wood? They're both great for their own reasons in all aspects, I think, is the consensus.
And we love them.
I love both of them. I love wood.
You love wood?
I love wood.
Moving on. Moving on. So, in our last episode, we introduced a new segment starring your very own Trevor from Peak Baits called Let Trev Cook. And he left us on a bit of a cliffhanger. So I can't wait to see what's in store for part 2 of Let Trev Cook.
All right. We've got the peking duck. If you watched the episode before this, you know how it was obtained, naturally harvested, of course. Nothing was injured. Everything was left as is in the wild, you know. This bad boy is about, what do we say, 2.61 ounces, 3.5 inches, 2 trebles in the back to act like little feet kicking in the water to attract those predators. And it was fun to get and play with, and stay tuned for what it does.
I can't
So
wait.
part three of Let Trev Cook.
I'm not going to give any spoilers on the action. You have to watch the podcast to see that.
Leaving us
I don't
wanting
even know
more,
what
Trevor.
it looks like. I want.
Yeah.
I need to see.
You know, I might have to get a DeLorean.
Time travel. So have you had it in the water yet?
No, I have not.
No?
I have not had the
Okay.
opportunity.
I'm excited.
Is it
I'm
still
excited.
Yeah.
hollow?
It's hollow at 2.5 ounces.
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't want to make it much heavier. Is there any weight in it?
Nope, we know it's buoyant. It sits upright. It's good. It might do one of these, but I'm okay with that.
That'll just make the action even better.
That's right.
It's gonna
All
get
right,
bit.
well,
You ever seen
I
the
think that's
video of
good
the
for it.
guy that he catches fish on a croc? It was like a little baby croc.
Yeah.
You saw that? He like
I
put
did see a
treble
video
hooks
like
on
that.
a
Yeah.
on a croc, and he throws it down in the river, and it gets bit. Not taken away
My
from the duck. The duck's gonna be amazing. Way better than a croc.
My prediction on the duck is it's going to get smoked by a monster. Like, I am
Yeah.
looking forward to that. I think it's going to kill. So
Let's hope.
fingers
I
crossed.
just want to catch a fish, period. I don't care how big.
I mean, that's a win either way. If you catch a fish on it, I don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a win either way. But I really hope it does get smoked by just something massive. New PB.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put my money on it, but I hope it happens.
You never know.
Awesome.
They're not used to
Well, I
seeing
get-
this.
Exactly. You know, throw them something they've never seen before, and a rubber ducky is right up that alley. I would say that
Nice and
qualifies as
bright.
something. And it's got its little feet.
Yeah, that's
Its
it.
little
You know,
feet.
You got to dress them. Are you going to dress them?
these ones aren't dressed, but I do plan on putting some dressed hooks on it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think if I'm seeing things correctly, I think you have access to maybe a few more.
Couple variants.
A couple variants. So yeah, you could
Yeah.
do different styles. That, or you've got a herd of rubber ducks coming to kill you. Either way, it'll be entertaining.
We'll find out.
Great. Well, I guess we're left with another cliffhanger. So stay tuned for part 3
That's what I do.
of Let Trev Cook. But speaking of things we've been working on, moving on from the rubber ducky, the peking duck, peak baits, get it? I love it.
Yeah.
I love a good pun. Let's talk about, let's go around the horn and see what everybody's working on right now. And I mean, we might as well, Trevor, you did such a good job with the duck. Why don't you start us off with what you've currently got going on in the world of peak baits, other than the duck?
Well, me and Anthony created a bait last year, the battle rat, and it's been turned into a battle pickle.
That looks so
I love
good.
that.
The
So,
battle pickle.
Yeah. I got a request
That is so
or a
sick.
suggestion, and I fell in love with it. It's good. It makes me happy. That's it.
I guess
That's
you could
what's new.
say, it's a bit of a big dill.
It is a big deal.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
He already
This looks-
already used that one on his post.
But it was his.
It doesn't matter. We all look good together. We all look bad together, right? So that's I just had
Yeah.
I had to work it in there. I thought you were going to say it, but it had to be said. I can't pass it up.
No, I like
Can't
that
let it
you
not
worked it
happen.
in there.
No,
I've
that's
used
cool.
it
Those
2
things.
times.
I mean, go ahead.
They're crazy.
I used it's a big deal 2 times in the last 2 days, so I appreciated you using it today.
Glad I could be of service. But all jokes aside, those things look incredible. Like I never thought I would say that a bait that is painted to look like a pickle would look good, but
Yeah,
you
no.
you check that box on my bingo card, man. Like that.
Thank
Not
you.
only do they look like a pickle, and they look great. So it looks great. I think that it's
I got to go put a ditch pickle on it.
exactly, yeah. It's the pickle picker. Pack of pickled peppers. So yeah. Anyway, Anthony,
This
what
one
about you? What's up? Go ahead.
We'll name this one Peter, the first one. The pickle
Peter?
Peter
Piper.
Piper. Peter Piper, the pickle picker.
Yeah.
I got to be careful. I'm going to say something that'll have to be bleeped on accident. What about you, Anthony?
I finally got this thing to swim. I drew
Yeah?
on it. I drew on it with a Sharpie. Can you see? It says
Looks better than some of the baits I've seen.
I'm a fish. It says it on there.
Who are you trying to convince?
The fish. They're gonna read that and know it's a fish. Yeah, so I made the tail thinner and I have one here.
Very flexible.
Yeah, this is silicone. I'm gonna try it out of the Flex It, but I just wanted to see how it was gonna affect the swim, and I don't think it's gonna matter that much. So right there, if you look at the Sharpie marks, see how the front half I put this chamfer on there?
Mm-hmm.
Once I did that, this actually swam. Yeah, so this is what it looked like. And then I did that, and it swims amazing. So, yeah, maybe this will eventually work soon. And the downsize,
Excited.
this is
Yeah.
coming out. I got this dialed in. I had weight up here. And I moved it back closer to the joint because some genius told me to do that. Hunlors, the biggest genius I know. And it stopped rolling at all. Like it swam amazing, but like on a burn stop, it would like do this sometimes, which would get annoying because you don't want your bait flipped over like this when something's following it, and then it gets tangled up in the hook. Anyway, yeah, move that weight, and then it's perfect. So those are coming out soon.
You said you moved it
Soon.
closer to the joint.
Yeah, so on the front, I had it on this hook hanger, and what I did was I don't know if I can pull it apart, but this lower screw eye, I put the weight attached to that instead. So it's right here. And then I moved this weight. No, I didn't. I left this weight where it is. I'm trying to think because I'm doing the same on this bait also.
Oh, okay.
I had 3 weights up here, and I moved them back further to try to also eliminate any rolling. Apparently, you don't want too much weight up at the front. It kind of makes sense if you think about it. Like, if I'm putting the weight, I'm backwards. If I'm putting the weight here in a line, well, now the rotation is at that point rather than, if it's down here, now it's not gonna, now the center of mass is at the absolute bottom. So that's the pivot point rather than the pivot point being like halfway up the bait. I'm not a physicist. I barely know geometry. But yeah.
Well, you got me beat. I don't know geometry at all. So
That worked. Thanks to Hunlors. This thing swims amazing now. That one little
shout out Hunlors.
Yeah, that one just shifting the weight back made all the difference.
That's awesome. Yeah. Shout out Hunlures. If you haven't watched that episode, it's episode 3.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
3.
That
He was
dude's
our
a
very first
genius.
guest ever. Yeah. It's a long one, but man, it's worth it. If you're into bait making, blew all of our minds. Yeah. Cool. Well, what am I working on? I'm working on catching up from being gone for
Podcast.
2 weeks straight. I'm working on editing a podcast that I shouldn't have to be editing. Thank you, Riverside. I've been planning this for a while, but I really think I'm going to be able to execute on it this weekend. I am building an additional workbench to where I can have everything in my shop out at the same time, to where because right now I've got limited space or limited work surfaces. I made space a while ago. I've just not been able to make the furniture yet, but I've got limited work surfaces to where I'm having to, like, once I finish a step, I have to put that equipment and stuff away and get out the next step's equipment. And that burns a lot of time. And frankly, it makes me not want to go do the next step because I'm lazy. I think I probably should have had Anthony's company name, because I am the epitome of lazy whenever it comes to this stuff. And
It's efficiency.
yeah, I think if I can make it more efficient, then I'm going to be much more productive. I'm also, because I make YouTube videos of most of the stuff that I make, I'm setting it up in a way that makes that a little more efficient as well. Because I think we talked about it with Zach. Sometimes it's just like, I could make this so much faster if I didn't have to film it. But a lot of that is trying to figure out where I can put my camera, where I can put, how am I going to set this shot up? And if I can build or like structure my shop around like taking that into account with lighting and everything, then I think it's going to make it a lot easier to do those things. And so I'm going to be able to put out more videos, which I like doing it, as much as I talk trash about editing, it's, I tend to do it a lot. So I must like it, at least to some extent. Yeah. So hopefully going to execute on that this weekend. Finally, I've already designed the workbench. I just need to make it. And I've designed a big test tank. I need to make that. I don't know if that one will get done this weekend, but it will be done soon. So my socials and my YouTube may be a little quieter than, or still quiet, because they've been quiet for the past couple of weeks. Man, I'm so bad at that. But hopefully by finally getting more space and a better space to do all this stuff in, I'll be able to be more efficient and have multiple things going on at once, because I have stations, when I'm waiting for something to dry, I can go back and work on something else. That's the whole goal, to where I can be more efficient and be able to crank stuff out, both bait wise and content wise, much faster. I have sold out of the noggins. They're not currently available. So I need to make another batch of those. Based on our earlier discussion, you can probably tell how excited I am about that, but they're good baits and people like them. So I got to balance that with the stuff I want to do, which is carve wooden baits. So it's a give and take. I love the noggin. I think it's a great bait, and I'm proud of it. When you're trying to paint a dozen of them at a time, how I do it, and it just gets monotonous, and I have the attention span of a slug, so it's not easy for me, but I'm doing it. So those will be back up and available hopefully sometime within the next 2 months. I don't know, we'll see how quick I can get that done. I got a lot of stuff on the board, but yeah, other than that, I think that Here's a podcast exclusive for everybody. You'll only hear this here. I'll give you a tidbit on the next bait I'm going to make. I think I'm going to do my version, the Freek Baits version of a zombie rat topwater. Yeah. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on the ideas because I'm still kind of fleshing that out, but I have a pretty clear, almost clear vision of what exactly I mean by zombie rat. And I know a lot of people have done that before, but I think this one will be a little different. So stay tuned for that. It probably won't be the next YouTube video because I still have that bait to finish that I need to send to Anthony to 3D scan. So that we'll see how long that takes to put together. And then I also have another video I need to make that goes hand in hand with that one to basically making molds the old fashioned way. So I'm going to do both of those, but I may do just because I'm really interested in it right now, I may do the zombie rat next. We'll see.
the zombie rat.
But do it.
Do it.
Which I've only got like a couple of things left to do to the bait that I'm sending you, Anthony. I need to just knock that out first. That's what I'll do. I'll knock that out first. I'm excited about that one too. I'll knock that one out first just so I can get it sent to you. No rush on getting it back to me because I obviously have other things I can do while you're working on that. But yeah, I'm literally like an hour or two away from being done with that one. So I need to just finish it. I kind of just forgot about it and then left my comfort zone for 2 weeks. Yeah, that's, as if that wasn't enough. Just all your other random junk. Just the usual. Being terrible at social media. Trying to run a business without having any idea what you're doing. It's all fun. It's all fun and games. Exactly. Good thing I'm not relying on this for my entire income or any income. And yeah, but cool. Well, that's all exciting stuff.
Question of the week.
I think we've reached that point. It's time to wrap it up with our question of the week. If you have something that you'd like to submit for a question of the week, leave it in the comments down below or send it to us on Instagram at Bait Boys Podcast, or write a thoughtful handwritten letter and mail it. I'll leave Anthony's personal address in the description down below.
Send bacon with it.
Yeah, make sure you send some bacon, fully cooked, so it stays good. And but yeah, send us your questions of the week, and there's a good chance that it will be featured in one of our episodes. This week's question of the week comes from Swimbait, Iowa, and it is an interesting question, and the question itself is not necessarily bait making oriented. I think it can be, but we can just talk about it in general, and then I may try to tie it into bait making just so it makes sense. And it's a great question in general. It's just, it's pretty broad, and it's
doesn't apply to any of us.
It definitely doesn't apply to any of us because none of us match either of these criteria. But the question is, how do people so young get to be millionaires? Now, none of us are young, and to my knowledge, none of us are millionaires. So why we're being asked this question, I'm not sure. It is a good question because I've asked this question myself several times when consuming content from various outlets. You see, there are quite a few people who are very young making a lot of money. And I mean, I'm not going to start. I'm going to let somebody else start. And probably.
I want to hear Trevor's.
Fire away, Trevor.
All right. How can young people become millionaires? OnlyFans.
We were all thinking it, and you said it.
I mean, we can keep it PG-13, We're not having to be in the gutter here, but OnlyFans.
That's it.
As long as you're of the legal age, I'm pretty sure to do that.
An adult?
Sure Swimbait, Iowa was.
It just said young people, but I think they meant young adults. So I mean, so
I heard,
it's still valid.
18 plus. How do I get rich? There you go.
OnlyFans.
I mean, yeah, it's for better or worse. You see a lot of that happening. I think there are some other things that you need to have going on in order to be successful. We're not getting into details or specifics, but yeah, if you've got what it takes and you're into that kind of thing,
you got to find a niche.
Yeah.
On your OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to get demonetized before we even get monetized. So I'm afraid to ask, but Anthony?
I like the selling Lucy's. That's a good one.
I don't know if that could quite get you to millionaire status, though. It's a good
Well-
starter, but
Well, they're young, and they're gonna be young for a little while. The problem is
They're
they
gonna
gotta
go-
split. They gotta split their profits with the person that they're having to buy the cartons of cigarettes. So that might cut into it. Maybe Lucy's isn't the way to go. I think.
Yeah.
I think a lawnmower. Start off with a lawnmower, like Facebook Marketplace, and just go mow people's lawns and stack the money up, and then invest it in meme coins. Yep.
In meme coins?
Yeah, meme coins. That or start a pyramid scheme.
I respect
would
a
say-
good pyramid scheme.
I hope he knows that we're all broke.
yeah, we're
All my
probably
money-
absolute.
All my money goes into making lures. Definitely, you will not be a young millionaire making fishing lures. Maybe like an old millionaire eventually.
Yeah, if you're lucky. Yeah.
OnlyFans sounds pretty good.
I mean, you're not wrong. Again, there's a few other things that you need to have going for you, and I'm not saying
Everyone's
be
got their
anything.
kink.
How do young people become millionaires? Let me see. If I were young and were trying to become a millionaire, based on what I know now, I would say hope that you're born into a rich family.
That's a good one, yeah.
Because
Or
there's
marry
a
into.
few ways that people become millionaires. There's that one. There is
Winning the lotto?
yes, there's playing the lotto. There is being insanely talented and not crazy at the same time. So that's a lot of people are either one or the other. Being insanely talented or and not crazy at the same time, or being really smart and inventing something that the entire world thinks they need. Those are really the only paths that I can immediately see to millionaire status. That would be like, that would still put you, to your point, bait making's not going to get you to millionaire status probably ever, but definitely not while you're young. So if you're wanting to be a young millionaire, those are the ways that I would see doing. You either inherit it, you win the lottery, you are hot, you are talented and not crazy, or you are an inventor of the next Velcro.
Content.
Content, yes. That's the last thing the world needs is more content creators.
I like Velcro.
Specifically ones. Velcro, yeah. Invent Velcro. The next Velcro, whatever that is. I don't know. Get really good at AI. I don't know. Someone made Iowa. I wish we had better answers to your question. It's a great question. And
It was good.
I think we all wish we had a good answer to it. But we probably wouldn't be doing this podcast if we did. Or maybe we would.
I
and we'd
want
just be
to
like on our
ask.
yachts.
I want to ask Swimbait, Iowa. How do I, become a millionaire at middle age, and then, like,
Yeah.
just get back to us in a year or two, and let us know.
Yeah,
It's a respectable question. I respect his question.
absolutely.
I think it's
Absolutely.
funny that it doesn't apply to any of us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, why are you asking me? I have no idea. Like, it's a great question. Let me know if you find the answer. But
Probably
yeah, I like
real
that idea.
estate. Real estate would probably be decent.
Yeah.
in the
Don't you have
long
to
run.
you have to have money to get into real estate.
That's
though, don't
why you buy the lawnmower off Facebook Marketplace and spend your first year mowing lawns and just focus and just keep putting in your piggy bank. And then you buy some small commercial real estate, and that's all I got. I don't know.
and then go from
I
there.
I have a shed, so maybe I'll start renting it out. Huh.
There you go.
I think I'm gonna
Be a
become
tiny
a
home.
millionaire.
It's
Yeah.
a tiny home. There you go. There's your first real estate investment. You've already done it and you didn't even know.
Man, I'm rich.
You should make a major purchase right now based on credit. And
Onlyfans.com.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, then with that, I think it's time to bring this episode to a close. Thank you so much for your time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, pray for us.
Check out our OnlyFans.
And we don't have an OnlyFans, but we do have a merch shop description or link. Why can't I ever get that right? Description in the links below. Link in the description below. Buy a shirt, buy a mug, buy a rocks glass, a mouse pad. We got it all. And if there's something in there or there's something that you want that's not in there, let us know. We'll figure it out one way or the other. Mm-hmm. Anthony may be drawing it on something he bought from Walmart, but we'll get you something. Thanks for your time and for sticking with us through to the end, and we will see you next time. That was good. That was fun.